Our hero today is named Shrek. He lives in a swamp far away from all people. It is not surprising, because he is an ogre. In the morning he likes to take a mud bath, as well as fishing in his swamp. In his leisure time, Shrek loves fairy tales. And as we know in fairy tales, the princess is waiting for her prince and there should be a happy ending. But only our hero does not particularly like it, and he considers all this simple nonsense. One of the evenings he decided to have guests. Not far from the swamp is a village, and the inhabitants often visit Shrek. Although, most of them avoid the swamp, so as not to get themselves in trouble. Taking torches and pitchforks as weapons, a small group of people went to check on our hero. But Shrek is not so simple and immediately showed them who is the boss in the swamp. In response, the villagers could only run away with their tails between their legs. Meanwhile, at the other end of the forest something strange was happening. In the forest glade there were a lot of fabulous creatures, each of which was unique. As it turned out, people decided to catch them in cages on the orders of the Lord that would send them to distant lands. The guards paid money for each captured creature. So one of the old ladies decided to bring her talking donkey to get some profit from it. As a result, he quickly realized what was going on and immediately began to keep silent, so as not to draw attention to himself. But suddenly a jar with magic pollen falls on him and he flies up. The donkey is completely free, can fly, and also speak. But the happiness did not last long, because the effect of pollen very quickly ended and he fell to the ground. Running headlong into the forest, he crashes into Shrek, and at that moment their first acquaintance takes place. Shrek stands up for the donkey and lets the guards know that they have no business being here. The donkey began to realize that this is a great chance to get a loyal guard and maybe even a friend. But as we remember, the green ogre is a loner and he doesn't need anyone else. So he immediately tried to chase away the annoying donkey. Although the animal was not particularly scared, and he still decided to take a risk and try to make friends with Shrek. Once in the swamp, Shrek kindly gave Donkey a tour and showed him his possessions. But in fact, Donkey got into the house without any special invitation and chose a comfortable place to stay for the night. Shrek didn't like it very much and got angry and threw the poor donkey out into the street. In the evening, Shrek sat in his lonely house and had dinner, while Donkey with a very sad face sat outside the window. Shrek already thought that life had taken its toll, but suddenly he hears very strange noises. Checking what is the matter, he found many different fairy creatures in the swamp, which came here at the command of Lord Farquaad. Our green ogre didn't like such a turn of events and immediately tried to chase them all away, but all to no avail. Fairy creatures staged a riot, but Shrek still managed to calm them down. Soon he learns the reason for such a sudden visit and decides to visit Lord Farquaad. But only Donkey knows the way to his castle. Perhaps someone else knew the way, but they had no desire to go to the castle, so as not to run into the guards. The ogre has no choice and takes a donkey as a traveling companion to show him the way. Meanwhile, Lord Farquaad interrogates the Spice Man in the dungeon. To amuse himself somehow, he has brought a magic mirror that shows princesses from other kingdoms. Out of all the candidates, the Lord likes Princess Fiona and immediately decides to marry her. The mirror wanted to tell one nuance, but the Lord didn't care and is determined to make his plans a reality. If he marries Fiona, he can become a full-fledged king of his kingdom. Farquaad announces a knight's tournament, and the winner will have to go in search of the princess and fight with a fierce dragon. Meanwhile, our heroes Shrek and Donkey reach the town of Duloc, but it turns out to be empty, because all the inhabitants were at the tournament. They very quickly find their way and get to the tournament. But they are not greeted very happily and a fight starts immediately. Our green friend wins the tournament and Donkey helps him. The Lord was very much surprised by such impudence and immediately changes the plans in his favor. Farquaad's guards point crossbows at Shrek to arrest him. But the Lord offers a deal. If Shrek saves Princess Fiona from the dragon and brings her to the Lord's castle, all the fairy tale creatures in the swamp will instantly disappear and Shrek can return to his old life. In the crosshairs of the guards, the green ogre agrees, for he has little choice. He and the donkey set off through the forests and fields. They have a dialogue where Shrek tries to explain that he is not so bad and people just don't give him a chance to show them his best side. People run away from him in fear, and he's not so bad after all. By evening, Shrek and Donkey have reached the top of the volcano, where a huge castle stands. But they are separated from the goal by a big lake of lava and a very small flimsy bridge. Of course, there is no choice and they have to go forward. Donkey is very much afraid of heights and lava, but Shrek still manages to get Donkey to the other side and continue his journey. In the castle, Shrek puts on the protective armor left by the knights who arrived earlier. All he has to do is find the princess and fight the dragon. But the dragon finds them first and tries to get rid of the uninvited guests. He tries to roast Donkey and Shrek stands up for him. The dragon throws the ogre into the highest tower where Princess Fiona is imprisoned. When Fiona notices the knight, she prepares for the kiss of love that she has been planning for a long time. But things turn out very differently. Meanwhile, a dragon traps a donkey and he finds himself on the edge of a precipice. Not knowing what to do, he uses his charm and it turns out that in front of him is a dragon girl who just wants love and affection and is not as evil as it may seem at first glance. She realizes that this is her chance to find a companion and she likes Donkey very much. So the dragoness takes him to her lair. Shrek rescues Donkey and they quickly escape from the castle, leaving the poor dragon behind. Fiona wants very much to know who saved her, but suddenly it turns out that the man in front of her is not a man at all. When Shrek takes off his helmet, the princess realizes that she doesn't want to kiss him very much and doesn't mind going back to the castle. She intends to sit and wait for the Lord to visit her and save her. But Shrek doesn't like this idea very much, because he still has a lot of things to do and needs to get his swamp back. By force grabbing the princess and throwing her on his shoulders, our heroes set off on a journey to the castle of Lord Farquaad. The way is not close, so it is necessary to go for several days. But Fiona is very afraid of the dark, so she asks the green ogre and Donkey to find a secluded place to spend the night. Shrek finds a suitable cave for her and sets it up a bit. At night, Donkey and Shrek start to communicate sitting on the edge of the cliff. Fiona, meanwhile, can't sleep at all and accidentally overhears their conversation. She realizes that Shrek is not as horrible as she first thought. As dawn breaks, the princess wants to make amends and do something nice for her saviors. The princess sings well, which attracts the birds, who are very interested in what is happening in the forest. But one of the birds explodes in front of Fiona and her eggs in the nest are left all alone. To avoid spoiling the product, the girl decides to cook a small breakfast. With new strength, our heroes are ready to continue their journey. In a forest clearing, they are met by new robbers, who decide to save the princess from the hands of this green monster. Fiona did not like this arrangement of events and she single-handedly scattered the guys in different directions. Shrek, Donkey and me were shocked at this turn of events. Shrek didn't even notice that during the fight he was hit by an arrow from the bow. Fiona sent the donkey to the forest to look for the blue flower, which was not really there. But somehow the donkey manages to find the right flower and he runs back to save his green friend. On his return, he sees a very romantic scene where Shrek and Fiona embrace on the grass. Although Shrek himself denied it. While the donkey distracted the ogre, the princess was able to pull out the arrow, though it was quite painful. The journey continues and sunset comes again. Fiona suggests they stop for the night and get some rest. She is also very worried about Donkey, who is behaving rather strangely and can get sick very quickly. Shrek realizes that he has feelings for the beautiful princess and decides to tell her about them. Meanwhile, at night, Donkey visits the old hut to check how the princess is doing. But suddenly he meets a big green monster and thinks it has eaten the princess. But he soon realizes that it is the princess who turned into an ogre during the night. Fiona tells her story and that there is a spell on her that only love's kiss can break. Outside the door, Shrek hears that you can't love such a horrible monster and thinks it's about him. Very upset, he goes to the castle at night to bring the Lord and give the princess to him. Fiona also decides to tell the truth about her curse, but the sun rises and she turns into a beautiful princess. At the Lord's meeting, they decide not to delay and have the wedding today before sunset. Shrek returns to his swamp, he banishes the donkey and continues to live alone. He misses Fiona as much as she misses him. Donkey is also very sad, although at this moment he meets an old friend at the pond. donkey decides to take matters into his own hands and tell Shrek the truth about the princess. Riding a dragon, they fly to the castle in time for the ceremony. Shrek bursts into the church during the wedding and asks the princess not to marry the Lord because he only needs the marriage for formality and to become king. Fiona realizes that Shrek has feelings for her and is ready to tell her secret. At sunset, she turns into an ogre, which makes Farquaad very angry. But here Shrek likes her a lot and kisses her. After the kiss, the princess's spell should be lifted, but she realizes that nothing is happening. But Shrek comforts her and says that she is still as beautiful as she was before. Together they go to live in the swamp, and from this moment Shrek will never be alone again. Write in the comments what you think about this cartoon. Did you like to watch it as a child and want to review the second part? Thank you very much for watching and see you soon.